You know what the best part of my day is? For about 10 seconds from when I pull up to the curb when I get to your door. Because I think maybe I'll get up there and I'll knock on the door and you won't be there. No goodbye, no see you later, no nothing. Just left.
We're swimming in stasis, folks, so I'm just going to teach you all about the 4 new fragments, and if you stay to the end, you're going to see just how crazy one of them really is. We've got Whisper of Hunger, Conduction, Rending, and then I saved the best for last, Rhyme. Starting with the simplest, Whisper of Hunger gives you an extra melee boost whenever you pick up a shard. As a reminder, stasis shards are created differently for each character depending on their aspect. As a Titan, I smash a crystal, a shard pops up. In a regular situation, whenever you walk over a shard to pick it up, you'll get an instant 10% boost to your melee energy. If you happen to have the Hunger Fragment equipped, it just increases that amount by 50%. So the reality is that whenever you pick up a shard in this case, you'll get 15% boosts instead of the 10. Equipping this gives -10 mobility and -10 recovery, which is actually how I think all fragments should work, but it's kind of weird that they picked this one over others. Anyways, moving on to Whisper of Conduction. It's pretty interesting. All it does is make those shards track towards you, but it's actually pretty handy. When I run the Thorn, sometimes it can be a pain to get that Soul Devour, that green bubble, to actually get to me, but these activate their tracking towards you at 18 meters, and they come to you pretty quick. The neat thing is that you can also shoot enemy crystals. So let's say that those are within 18 meters, you break one of their crystals, and that little melee shard comes right over to you. Honestly, I normally wouldn't have recommended this, but when you combine it with another fragment and the fact that it gives +10 intellect and resilience, it's kind of nuts. You'll see a little bit later. Whisper of Rending helps your kinetic weapons do more damage to crystals or frozen enemies, not energy weapons. Anyway, this one has a bit of a funky mechanic, so let me just pull out my chalkboard. This is an ice crystal. It has about 400 HP. That might seem odd to you because you can kill one of these things with like 2 hand cannon shots, but it'll make sense in a second. You know, at the end of your Crucible matches, sometimes your damage looks absolutely insane. Well, that is because the way that our weapons do damage to crystals is kind of weird. Let's say I'm using a 120. We all know that that does 90 crit and 50 to the body. Well, what the game does is whenever you shoot a crystal, it takes the body shot damage of your archetype, it multiplies it by 5, and then it takes it out of the 400 total HP. So in a 120's example, when I shoot it once, I'm actually doing 250 damage. I shoot it a second time, and now I've done a total of 500, which is greater than the 400, hence why it dies. I wanted you to understand that mechanic, but to make things simpler, just pretend that these things have 80 HP, and then your weapons only do body shot damage to them. While what Rending does, it ups that body shot damage that you're dealing to the crystal by 50%. So back to my scenario with a 120, instead of doing the 50, I'm actually going to do 75. That's not quite enough to overcome the 80 HP barrier, so you actually still need to shoot it twice if you were using a 120 hand cannon. Okay, so what about when we're shooting a frozen enemy? Well, the fragment will still give you that 50% boost, but the way the game works with shooting frozen enemies, especially with a kinetic weapon, is that it first reduces things by 50%. So back to that scenario. I'm using a 120. I'm used to seeing 90 crits. I freeze somebody. I'm now only going to see 45 crit. And that has nothing to do with the fragment. The game cuts your damage by 50% automatically when you're shooting someone who's frozen. But then if you have this fragment equipped, it's now going to take that 45 and add your 50% to it. The result is that your weapon will end up doing 25% less damage instead of the typical 50% less damage. Okay, last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, I could not believe what I was seeing with Whisper of Rhyme. Picking up those shards we've been talking about gives you an overshield. Each shard gives you exactly 12.5 health. If you fill the bar, it works out to a 100 health point overshield. And my God, there's so much more to it than this. Take a look at this clip. The Frozen Orbit's an aggressive sniper, which typically does 475 damage to the head. It's pretty crazy what's going on here, so let me just pull out that chalkboard again so I can explain exactly how it works. To keep the numbers simple, let's just pretend you're running max resilience and you've got roughly 200 health in a normal situation, all right? If you were to have the full overshield, adding that 100, that's 300 total. Here's what's going on here. Normally with that Frozen Orbit, you'd be used to seeing 475 for a headshot. But in this case, the Guardian is glowing orange. For some reason, it shows 274 instead. The reason is because this super overshield negates critical damage. The way damage works in Destiny. Hey, hon, I'm trying to record a script. The Frozen Orbit actually does 158 to the body. And then what Bungie does is they actually multiply it by a crit factor. And this crit factor changes with all archetypes. This gives us the total of 475 damage for the aggressive sniper archetype like the Frozen Orbit. The amount of super overshield negates critical damage. So this 158 gets split up into 100 plus 58. Even though you hit a headshot, the game immediately says, no, this damage was dealing to this super overshield. So we're actually going to look at the body shot damage only right now. This first 100 just acts as 100. Then it says, oh, okay, you've officially killed off the super overshield. Okay, I guess we'll take that remaining body shot damage and multiply that piece by 3. Well, 58 times 3 is 174. I take the first 100 that hit, the 174 that just hit from this crit portion, and that gives me my 274 damage that I saw on screen right there. I tested this with 4 or 5 different weapons to make sure, and that's exactly what's happening. We all know how insane damage boosting perks can be, like the meta of 2-tapping 120s, so it's worth noting how impactful damage reduction can be too. Having a full super overshield is insane. Suddenly a 120 needs to do 4 crit and 1 body, compared to the regular 2 crit 1 body. The time to kill on all guns becomes completely laughable because of the extra health, but also the fact that they're not dealing crit damage until the overshield is gone. Imagine using a 140 and needing to hit 5 crits, and the moment you miss one of those, you're into the 6+ bullet range. Shotguns, slugs, snipers, none of them can one hit if they have a full overshield. Now, I recognize you're not really ever going to have a full one though, are you? Because that takes 8 shards. So let's be a little more realistic. As a Titan, you can throw down your grenade and bam, right there, you've got 5 crystals, which means 5 shards at 12.5 apiece, giving you 62.5 HP of this non-critical juice. I was really happy to see the fact that you can still die to a headshot from an adaptive and an aggressive, but rapids no longer kill you with a precision. 120s need to hit 3 crit 1 body, 140s need 5 bullets minimum. It's crazy. Then I thought to myself, how can I combine this with Whisper of Chains? It's pretty tough to use your Cryoclasm and slide through, say, 1 crystal without breaking all 5, which would defeat the whole purpose, right? Because Whisper of Chains makes your opponents do less damage to you when you're near a crystal. But then I realized you can easily use the super melee trick and only break 4 out of those 5 crystals. Take a look here. If you don't have your super bar full, you can just walk up to an ice wall, hit your super button, and it will just melee 1 piece of ice in 1 hit and get rid of it. Bam, there's 12.5 overshield. Break 4 out of 5, and now you've got 150 health. On top of that, your opponents are going to do 25% less damage to you, and they won't even do crits for their first 1 or 2 shots. This is a legitimate scenario that I could use if I'm trying to cap something in Trials, for example, and a sniper cannot headshot me. Shotguns can't even barrel stuff 1-hit kill me. Dude, a behemoth can't even 1-hit you. All in all, if you see someone orange in the game, they're basically Goku.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
If you found this helpful or you enjoyed it, consider clicking that beautiful red subscribe button, and I'll catch you next time.